All right, stick with me here. Imagine waking up with zero clue where you are, only to realize you are literally standing in a brutal slave arena. His opponent, a massive psycho named Butcher, and let me tell you, the entire crowd is losing their minds for this bloodthirsty giant. Without wasting a single second, Butcher shadows over our guy with his giant hammer and swings with everything he has got. The crowd goes absolutely wild, thinking it is game over. But when the dust finally clears, Butcher cannot believe his own eyes. Our boy is casually standing right on top of his hammer, completely fine, already infusing his sword with raw magic. Before the big guy can blink, our hero dashes in and one-shots him. Butcher hits the dirt out cold. Now the arena chants his name, except the rich snobs who lost fortunes betting against him. So who exactly is this guy, and how did a totally overpowered swordsman end up in a fighting pit? Back up a bit. Ruthless demons cornered humanity in their final stronghold, City Ale, and completely wiped out every last one of them. Colin is the only human left breathing, and even he is pushed to his absolute breaking point after all this nightmare fuel. He fought these monsters as the absolute strongest swordsman this world has ever seen, but even that insane power isn't enough to win. The boss demon standing right in front of him just laughs, mocks him for still trying to throw down when he's the last man standing. At the same time, he twistedly respects the hustle, so he decides to reward Colin by letting him pick his own death. As our exhausted hero watches, everything he fought for just crumble. His mind flashes back to how this whole nightmare started. It has been 1 full year since these demons randomly spawned into the world with zero warning. Since humans were ridiculously weak compared to these guys. The demons had zero trouble rolling through one city after another, easily making their way straight to the capital. Soldiers tried their hardest to hold the line, but these magicless commoners stood absolutely no chance against monsters spamming spells left and right. Magic actually does exist in this world. But the massive problem, it was strictly gate-kept by the snobby nobles. These stuck-up royals always thought they were the main characters destined to save humanity. But their weak, garbage-tier magic couldn't even scratch the lowest-ranking demons. Colin thinks back to the forbidden magic book he scored, a cheat code that let anyone use magic, no matter their class. But watch closely here, you're gonna feel this. He regrets finding it so late, knowing everything could have changed if he just had it earlier. Snapping back to the present moment, the demon smugly asks him one more time if he has picked how he wants to die. He casually suggests chopping off his limbs or burning him alive until there is nothing left. But Colin, he refuses to break. He straight up tells the demon to shut his mouth. He rushes the beast in one final, desperate swing, but the demon blocks it effortlessly, like batting away an annoying fly. Colin quickly regains his footing and thrusts his blade right at the demon's chest, aiming straight for the heart. But then, the demon dodges right on time and laughs in his face. Basic sword skills are absolutely useless against a boss like him. But right as the monster is about to keep trash talking, he suddenly realizes Colin somehow actually landed a hit. The dude drew blood from his terrifying body. Colin admits normal swordplay would totally flop here. Turns out, his blade is a forbidden weapon that literally eats the user's life force as the massive price for its insane power. After dropping that bomb, I know what you're thinking, is he crazy? Yes, he dives right back into the fight, somehow keeping up with the monster, trading blows evenly, pushing the clash without backing down. The brawl drags on until he finally spots the perfect opening. With one lightning-fast strike, he slices the demon's hand clean off. That instantly makes the monster absolutely furious. Fueled by pure rage, the demon mocks this so-called forbidden sword and just catches the blade with his bare hand like it is nothing. He tells our guy that things might have actually gone differently if he had used that exact move earlier as a sneak attack. Then he calls him a massive loser for blowing his only shot, completely crushing the sword into tiny pieces. Giving him zero time to recover, the demon follows up with a brutal fire spell that blasts our swordsman straight into the air. Colin slams into the dirt, gritting his teeth in pure agony. He realizes that even his ultimate sacrifice wasn't nearly enough to take this boss down. The demon closes the gap in a flash and violently grabs him right by the collar. Lifting him easily, he mocks Colin for trading everything just to take one arm, and that's where we leave it wild right. Literally knocking on death's door. Colin is straight up apologizing to his squad for completely failing his big promise. Boom, the demon smacks him again, leaving him totally drenched in blood. But that dripping blood spills all over a forbidden book, and suddenly, a hidden power inside it finally activates. Stick with me here, guys. He wakes up alive again, looking super confused about where he is. Right then, he hears this super weird voice and quickly turns around to check it out. Yup, it is the forbidden magic book, and it is literally talking to him. It tells our main guy his blood woke it up. As a solid favor, it offers to send him back through regression to give him a second chance to redo everything. Our boy clenches his fist the second he hears the word regression, because deep down, he has always wanted a do-over. He literally calls it the opportunity of a lifetime and accepts it instantly without any hesitation. The book looks pretty hyped and tells our main character it will stick by his side. It promises to help him master magic so he can totally achieve his goal of sending those ugly demons right back to hell. At that exact moment, countless pages shoot out of the book and start spinning wildly around him, while this super mysterious figure just pops up right in front. Then the book snaps shut on its own, and the unknown dude holds it while the crazy regression process finally finishes up. The scene cuts to a massive arena, with the crowd cheering super loud for the butcher. Our main character looks around totally clueless, wondering why he is suddenly holding a sword and shield. While trying to figure out what he is doing in a sketchy slave arena, the roaring crowd makes him realize he actually did travel back to the past. It is pretty obvious our guy just took a massive hit from the famous butcher and somehow survived the crazy impact. The super shady owner of this arena, Viscount Thrace, twirls his mustache while looking down at the commoners, basically treating them like total pawns just to make a quick buck. To him, these people are only here to entertain the rich snobs. He treats them like totally worthless game pieces with zero actual value. As the epic fight starts heating up, the crowd keeps hyping up the butcher while the Viscount watches with excitement. He is totally convinced everything is going perfectly to plan, and Colin is just easy bait for the show. But instead of getting absolutely squashed like everyone expected to happen. Now check this out. Our hero cleanly dodges the attack and literally stands with his foot planted right on the big guy's weapon. In the past timeline, Colin literally had zero choices but to fight as a gladiator slave, forced into the brutal arena without any real way out. But now, everything feels totally different, and our boy realizes he can actually use magic. He starts wondering if that magic book literally merged with his body. With that epic thought, he counterattacks, taking his absolute first real step toward completely changing his fate. With just a few super clean and simple moves, Colin rushes forward and slices, knocking the butcher's head completely off his massive body with one insane hit. He decides to master the book's magic, knowing that this time around, he definitely wants to save humanity from getting wiped out by demons. Looking up at the greedy guys who organized this whole slave match, he quickly gets that in his current spot, changing the future sounds like a total joke. Realizing this hard truth, he decides to level up step by step. First thing on the to-do list, get into the Hall family. Just like in his past life, and become Colin Hall all over again. I know what you are thinking, totally rigged, right? He remembers being forced to lose this exact fight on purpose. Turns out, the commoners actually bet heavily on him, believing he could somehow beat the noble's absolute champion, the Butcher. But the sneaky Viscount Thrace planned to use Colin as a literal sacrifice, just to entertain all the snobby nobles sitting up top. Our main guy, however, plans to use this exact moment to grab the attention of the Line Territory Lord, Marquis Darius Hall. He wants to secure his entry into the family way faster. With that genius idea in mind, he openly roasts the management for being completely useless and boldly demands they send out his very next opponent. Meanwhile, Viscount Thrace is getting heavily chewed out by the nobles after the Butcher's crazy defeat, since he literally hyped them up to bet huge money on the dead fighter. The Viscount is totally sweating, trying to act like everything is still going exactly to plan, desperately hoping to calm down the furious nobles. On the flip side, Marquis Darius is clearly super interested in Colin. He asks his butler, Cornell, to give his honest opinion on that insane final strike. Cornell admits that Slash was insanely powerful. So what do you and I take from this? He is way beyond any standard Imperial soldier. All right, you and I are about to watch this kid completely disrespect the Viscount, and the Marquis is absolutely loving it. Meanwhile, back with the Viscount. He is sweating bullets trying to calm down the angry nobles, constantly promising them that the kid will be totally wrecked in the next round. But yeah, all that fake confidence and weak excuses instantly shatter when Colin one-shots the very next opponent before the poor guy even fully steps into the arena. The rich crowd completely loses their minds over being scammed, while the Viscount goes full panic mode. He resorts to force, ordering the guards to unleash every single gladiator at once against our boy like wild animals. Both Cornell and Marquis Darius lean in, seriously hyped to see exactly how the kid survives this crazy situation. As more than 6 hulking dudes charge right at him, Colin gets a flashback to the Marquis dreaming of a world with free magic for everyone. Back in his past life, he totally dropped the ball on that entrusted vision. But this time around, he promises himself he will make it reality no matter the cost. Now pay attention here, because our boy knows just beating a few random gladiators will never earn him a spot in the Marquis' family. So he screams at the top of his lungs, telling them all to bring it on. The gladiators instantly swarm him from every single direction, trying to box him in. But Colin dodges every hit flawlessly, then launches himself straight up into the air, prepping his sword for a massive counterattack. Hitting the dirt, he instantly drops 3 opponents, slicing their necks in one smooth motion. Then he literally uses their own weapons against the squad, packing up 2 more guys without even slowing down. Locking onto the very last gladiator left standing, he chucks his sword forward with some absolute expert precision. The blade blasts clean through the dude and just keeps flying right toward the crowd, skimming the Viscount's hair before slamming deep into the wall right behind him. Thrace is suddenly dripping with cold sweat after narrowly surviving the hit, and pure humiliation strikes him hard while his face twists up in absolute rage. Dead silent, he promises that he will make the kid pay. Meanwhile, watching this whole show, the Marquis openly laughs at the Viscount for getting totally outplayed by his own dirty trap. The rest of the snobby nobles instantly back up the Viscount and argue, with Darius Hall crying about how vile slaves like him should never have freedom to act. Some even take it to the extreme by screaming for Colin's execution, which completely wipes the smile off the Marquis' face. The vibe gets super tense, as he harshly scolds them for constantly disrespecting the lower class. This reaction just triggers the Viscount even more, openly challenging the Marquis and calling his ideals garbage. He reminds him that God handed out magic to humans 1,000 years ago, and that epic event established the strict hierarchy where nobles became known as the chosen agents of God. Then he raises his staff, aims his magic directly at the Marquis, asking if he actually plans to rebel against that order. You and I both felt that tension, but Colin steps in, cranking up the heat instantly. He just blinks calmly and plops down in a seat right among the nobles like he belongs, sparking absolute panic in the crowd. While everyone starts shrieking and desperately calling for the divine guards, Colin directly challenges Thrace, pointing his sword right at him and asking him to prove if he really is some holy agent of God. The crazy challenge is accepted, and both sides move down to the arena. All the snobby nobles stay super confident that the Viscount will easily squash the bug standing before him. They watch with smug smiles while Darius looks visibly tense. The Viscount makes the first move, keeping up his trash talking as he starts casting wind magic. Right at that moment, as the spell starts forming, Colin hears the magic book talking inside his head, and a shiny system panel pops right up in front of his eyes, showing Trace's stats. From what he sees, the Viscount is just a beginner-level mage with way more arrogance than any actual real strength. Thrace unleashes his wind blade technique, a nasty spell meant to chop through absolutely anything in its path. The rich crowd cracks up, taking literal bets on exactly how many pieces Colin's body will get chopped into. Some guys bet on 7 pieces, while others call 8. The Viscount proudly tells the Marquis to watch closely as he proves the massive gap between a noble and a slave. Colin, though, stays perfectly calm. We both love to see it. His body completely resists the magic unharmed. All right, stick with me here. The only thing those massive wind slashes actually manage to destroy is Colin's shirt. The attack completely misses. Colin just walks straight through the blast, closing in on Trace while the crowd goes absolutely speechless. The Viscount panics and quickly tries drawing his sword. But before it's even fully out, bam, Colin strikes, sending the blade flying. He instantly presses his own sword right against the noble's throat. Game over, fight's done. Right at that moment, the magic system pings again, alerting our boy that a brand new type of magic just popped up. Creepy shadow hands suddenly burst out of the ground. They wrap tightly around him, locking him completely in place. Who cast it? The divine guards. They just showed up after getting a tip that some slave dared to insult the nobility. Their aura is just suffocating. They immediately announce they are here to arrest the suspect on the spot. Taking one look at these divine guards, Colin instantly realizes he is in deep, deep trouble. Now pay attention to this part. These guards belong to the Magic Tower faction, an absolute powerhouse known for enforcing bloodline supremacy and backing up the noble's iron grip. Our main character knows these guys are top-tier elite nobles, way stronger than your average royal. He quickly analyzes the binding spell holding him and realizes, oh, he could snap it easily. But he decides to chill for a second to avoid drawing more heat. Instead, he plays dumb, acting like he totally can't escape. Then he takes a massive gamble, shouting out loud that he's actually the son of Marquis Darius Hall. He demands they drop the spell right now. Hearing this wild flex, both the divine guards and the Viscount look completely lost. The crowd starts whispering, totally confused. Since when did the Marquis have another kid? Nobody's ever heard this. Colin just stays locked in, praying his crazy bluff works. He knows the divine guards won't normally lay a finger on true nobility. He's betting his entire life on that one rule. Trace is absolutely fuming. He thinks it's completely unacceptable for some nobody to drag a noble's name through the mud just to survive. As punishment, he gets ready to execute the kid right there. But suddenly, a booming voice echoes across the entire arena. It's Lord Darius himself. His heavy presence literally freezes everyone exactly where they stand. The Viscount awkwardly scrambles, telling the fancy lord he was just wrapping up the miserable life of some random sinner. But out of nowhere, bam, the Marquis smacks Colin right across the face. Let that sink in for a second. He calls it disgusting that a mere slave would taint his family name. Even the divine guards are completely stunned. For a second, they actually thought he came to help out. Thrace looks like a total clown, his brain short-circuiting at whatever is happening here. The Marquis then puts our boy in a brutal headlock. He casually mentions that some hard labor down at the Merchant Guild should definitely knock some sense into him. Our main character just stays dead silent while the guy's thick, gloved hands tighten right around his throat. Marquis Darius acts totally outraged that Colin insulted Thrace, and then even had the guts to draw a sword on a noble. But Colin, he's completely chill the whole time. Everything is falling right into place exactly as planned. After that wild acting performance, the Marquis formally apologizes to Viscount Thrace for his so-called son's ridiculous behavior. Thrace's tiny brain is fighting for its life, trying to figure out when exactly these two became father and son. Colin shyly chimes in, saying he can't be blamed since the Viscount totally insulted his precious dad first. Papa Darius instantly snaps at him to shut up. Then he turns to the divine guards, promising he'll personally discipline his boy. He waves them off, making it crystal clear they aren't needed here anymore. But the Viscount isn't backing down. No way is he letting even a Marquis use some cheap, obvious prank to steal away his #1 slave. Eyes totally bloodshot and oozing killer intent, he screams that he's going to wipe Colin out with his own 2 hands, right now. The dude even points his sword straight at the territory's lord, just to prove he's dead serious. Our boy just laughs out loud, watching this absolute clown checkmate himself in real time. Thrace just aimed a weapon at the actual lord of the Line territory. By doing that, he basically declared war on both the Lord and the Divine Guard. Colin happily informs the Bag of Bones he just committed high treason in front of everybody. Those sharp words leave Thrace completely and utterly speechless, leaving the old man frozen in the arena. Destroyed in front of his audience, the noble starts shaking with pure fear. He denies it, but the captain's mind is set. That's where we leave it, trust me, he's done. The captain wraps it up as one massive misunderstanding and orders his men to untie Colin. He even drops a formal apology for causing such a huge scene. Then he turns to Thrace, bluntly stating he will personally submit a full report of this whole mess straight to the Magic Tower. Thrace drops to his knees, absolutely terrified of what comes next. His fate is now completely in the hands of the council. Our boy finally exhales, totally relieved. But stick with me here because this Divine Guard captain, he is no fool. He quietly tells his squad that Colin is super sketchy, ordering them to run a deep, thorough background check on the kid. One of his rookies innocently asks why on earth they would investigate Lord Darius's son. The captain firmly fires back that it is literally impossible for nobody to recognize the Marquis of Lynn Territory's real kid. Clearly annoyed by that totally obvious lie. He is dead set on proving this guy is a fake. Meanwhile, his squad finds it super weird that Colin never cracked under pressure, even while tied up. They suspect he must have some crazy special tie to the Marquis, who showed up lightning fast to save him. Even though the captain cannot figure out every single detail yet. He orders his men to keep a super close eye on him. The scene then cuts to a carriage rolling through a lush forest. Jump in this carriage with me. Inside, the Marquis is laughing his head off at the brilliant acting Colin pulled off earlier. After a brief silence, Colin gives his genuine, heartfelt thanks to the Marquis for literally saving his life back there. Right after the duel, the Lord had actually sent his butler Cornell to buy Colin immediately, before anyone else could swoop in. The Marquis then shows real interest in his skills, asking straight up if he has actual experience fighting on the front lines. His sharp eyes had already figured out that Colin's combat movements were way beyond your average fighter. That crazy fluid precision meant he either survived years on a bloody battlefield or trained under an absolute beast of a warrior. Our hero looks down, totally lost in some heavy memories from his past. He shares that after his parents passed away, his own village sold him off into slavery when he was just a little kid. Years later, a genuinely kind noble bought him and taught him all the basics of magic. That same guy also trained him to survive actual, brutal combat. Real emotion fills his eyes as he admits that noble knight was basically a father to him. Before passing away, the man passed down a massive dream that he himself was never able to actually achieve. Colin's eyes spark with pure determination as he declares he will do whatever it takes to make that dream a reality. He is 100% willing to die for it. This unbreakable resolve completely blindsides Lord Darius. He definitely was not expecting such a raw, powerful, and honest answer. I know what you are thinking. Surviving a Viscount's deadly wind blade using nothing but basic magic. The Marquis finds that absolutely wild, and it hooks his interest completely. That unshakable spirit, forged through years of surviving the brutal life of a gladiator, leaves Darius deeply impressed. Right then and there, he starts seeing our hero as the only guy in his ranks worthy of handling his absolute lifelong mission. The weight of that thought hits him so hard, he just sits there in total silence for a minute. Finally, Cornell snaps him out of his deep thoughts, announcing that they have arrived at their destination. Marquis Darius's huge mansion is an absolute visual masterpiece. This massive architectural flex stands proud right in the middle of a stunning garden that only the richest top-tier nobles could ever afford. Stepping out, the Lord calmly drops the news. Colin is now a totally free man. But while he belongs to nobody, that freedom does not cancel out his responsibilities. They live in a brutal world where only the strong survive, and every single guy has to earn his keep. Turning around, Darius straight up tells him he will not baby him or hold his hand moving forward. From this second on, it is entirely on Colin to prove he can survive the intense discipline and insane hard work waiting for him. Our boy stays cool and rock solid, showing zero fear of the crazy challenges ahead. Marquis Darius boldly states he expects huge things from him. And by formally calling him Colin Hall, he officially locks in our hero's new status as his adopted son. With that epic mic drop, Phase 1 of his wild homecoming is finally 100% complete. Here is the lore drop. In this crazy world, nobles almost never marry below their high-class rank. Status has to match status perfectly. Otherwise, the precious bloodline gets ruined, and the family's overall power just drains away over time. The Hall family, especially, is insanely obsessed with keeping their lineage super pure. But there is exactly one wild exception among them. Lord Darius Hall himself. Unlike the rest, he thinks this noble purity stuff is total garbage, mostly because he was born the illegitimate son of a maid. Treated as trash from birth, you and I are just getting started. Stick with me here. Whispers followed him everywhere, but instead of breaking, he crushed those haters with pure skill. Just off his own insane merit, he climbed all the way to Marquis of the Line territory. Walking through these massive halls with Colin, he casually drops his core belief. A dude's background. It literally means absolutely nothing. Raw power and pure competence decide everything. He tells Colin straight up he can hand him fame, bags of cash, total societal authority, whatever he wants. But nothing is free. If Colin wants all that, he better prove his talent is worthy. Flashing a proud smirk, Darius tells the kid to throw his whole heart and soul into every single move. Hearing he can keep whatever he earns, Colin doesn't hesitate for a second. He boldly asks if he can snag a noble title too. The question completely rocks both the Lord and his butler, freezing them dead in their tracks. Even Darius Hall wasn't expecting ambition on that kind of crazy level. Then the Marquis just bursts into laughter. Instead of getting offended, he finds the kid's bluntness hilarious. With a warm grin, he challenges Colin, saying he is totally free to try and snatch the title if he wants it that bad. Now watch closely. This response perfectly matches Colin's read on the guy. Darius values pure hustle above everything. Believing in hard work over royal blood is exactly what makes him the odd one out in the Hall family. It's also why they absolutely despise him. Those Nepo babies riding on pure status just cannot stand him blocking their easy path to power. So yeah, his absolute worst enemies aren't random outsiders, but members of his own household. Right on cue, his eldest son Fried Hall and second wife Katrina Williams roll up with massive fake smiles, happily welcoming him home. The Lord chuckles, saying he never announced his return, joking it's impossible to keep secrets from his own family. His wife playfully jokes that news about him tends to spread whenever he rolls through a city. She adds that a little birdie told her all about his tiny clash with Trace over a slave. Lord Darius Hall just glares at her with cold disgust. In response, she flashes a sly smirk, playing the innocent lady who did absolutely nothing wrong. Darius quietly watches the servants attending her, literal snakes in disguise, reporting his every move behind his back. Colin stares her down too. She is closest to Darius, but also his biggest hidden enemy. In his past life, she was the exact reason his lifelong mission totally failed. After dealing with her husband, he became a victim of her nasty scheming too. She was the sole heir to her parents' massive fortune and noble title. That's why she flexes the authority and pull of a first wife, even though she is technically the Lord's second. Her ultimate endgame is super simple. Make sure her son Fried Hall becomes the next head of the Hall house. You and I know the drill. Last life she played him, but this time he won't let history repeat. Stepping up with blazing confidence, he declares it's a true honor to meet Lady Katrina Hall and older brother Fried. Then, loud and proud, he introduces himself to the room as Colin Hall. He swears to use every last drop of his strength to make the Hall family's influence even more massive. Hearing a commoner boldly claim, the family name drops Fried Hall's jaw straight to the floor. Right as he gears up to trash-talk Colin publicly, his mom raises a hand, shutting him up instantly. The sly lady decides to handle this garbage herself. She shows pure disgust at the idea of a commoner dragging their noble family name through the mud. Lady Katrina turns to Cornell, asking the butler if this new servant needs a strict re-education in manners and respect. Cornell wisely stays quiet, not wanting to piss off either side here. To everyone's absolute shock, our boy casually lifts his sword blade up high. He claims the name fits him perfectly, since it was gifted by the head of the house himself. He actively provokes them, asking if they seriously plan to oppose a decision made directly by the Lord. With a mildly mocking tone, he adds they better memorize his name, because someday he'll claim the Lord title and leave them completely in the dust. Katrina's eyes narrow with pure disdain at this peasant daring to spout such empty, ridiculous nonsense. Meanwhile, her son Fried Hall is so incredibly furious, he looks ready to punch straight through a brick wall. But for Lord Darius Hall, Colin's defiant words are absolute music to his ears. In the back, servants immediately start whispering, "You and I know he's legit," but to them, an adopted slave dreaming of ruling the house is a joke. To kill the growing whispers, Lady Katrina Hall coughs softly. "Stick with me here, because in seconds, every single servant in the room goes dead silent." She bites her lip in pure frustration, ordering Colin to know his place and keep his useless mouth shut in her presence. Right after that, Her Highness orders her servants to restrain him immediately. The butlers draw their hidden swords, and even the maids get ready to beat him down with their brooms. But before things spiral completely out of control, Lord Darius steps in and calls for a quick timeout. He explains that Colin is actually telling the truth. If he can prove his worth, he can claim the Lord's seat. Freed is super confused and asks what that means, but Lord Darius shuts him down with a furious glare. Lady Katrina says she won't oppose the Lord's decision, but explains the Darius house has tons of servants, and only the most loyal ones get a family name. In her eyes, letting a total outsider like him carry their name is just absurd. She adds that they absolutely cannot accept this so easily. So Lady Katharina suggests a test to prove his worth. If he fails, family tradition says he gets kicked out immediately. Now watch this. Our guy lets her know that won't stop him. The noblewoman gets super annoyed, asking if he is backing down from the challenge. But Colin explains every servant should take the exact same test, giving everyone a fair shot at earning the family name, while totally mocking Freed. He adds this is a way better method to pick the next lord than relying on nepotism and handing the title to some talentless brat. Hearing that, Freed feels humiliated for the very first time. He falls into total denial, wondering, how is it possible that the only son of the house has to compete with lowly servants for the crown? Suddenly, Katrina puts a hand on her son's shoulder, reminding him he is a noble and needs to keep his cool. She tells him not to fear nobodies, because unlike them he can actually use magic. She advises him to just watch for now, and he agrees silently. Finally, Lord Darius accepts our guy's crazy proposal. The big test will officially take place in exactly 1 month, and it will be open to every single applicant in the house. Until then, Colin will work as a low-rank servant. That is perfect for him, because he can finally study his magic book in detail. Walking down the hallway, Cornell tells our boy he seriously has a crazy way with words. He explains the Lord is always watched closely by other nobles for his unique mindset. He asks our guy to confirm if he actually worked for a noble before, since according to the reports, I know what you're thinking, this escalated fast. The guild bought him from a remote frontline village, pulling a knife and holding it against our boy's throat. Cornell asks if it is just a coincidence he arrived here, exactly when the Lord is looking for his next successor. Our boy stays completely chill and asks if Cornell is trying to accuse him of something. He then mentions the slave guild has zero shame about lying. They shamelessly teamed up with a viscount just to win a single fight. He asks if Cornell seriously believes the guild would let him go so easily if he was working for someone. Still totally suspicious. The butler replies that the merchant called him mediocre, but his movements clearly show skills of a way higher level. In the Empire, there is a strict rank system for magic and swordsmanship. Most people only ever manage to reach the intermediate level. And even among them, only a few exceptional individuals manage to climb higher. Nobles usually focus purely on magic, so when it comes to sword fighting, they stay total rookies. However, elite groups like the Divine Guardians demand crazy high-level skills in both magic and swordsmanship. Hearing that explanation, Cornell wonders if the merchant purposely gave fake info just to get rid of him quietly. Colin replies that if he were really a mole, then he would aim straight for the Lord's seat instead. The butler asks what exactly he means by that crazy statement. Our boy explains that a mole's only purpose is to infiltrate and expose weaknesses. So if he really was a spy, taking the butler position would have been way more convenient. From that role, he could easily steal the Lord's secrets without raising flags. After that, our guy offers a simple deal. He says he will use his servant status to quietly hunt enemy spies, and in exchange, he wants Cornell to be his partner and fully cooperate. The butler asks if he understands that doing this could turn every other noble against him. So what do you and I make of this? Colin smirks, saying high risk equals massive reward. All right, stick with me here. If Lord Darius fails, there won't be an inheritance anyway. Hearing that, Cornell looks pretty satisfied and slowly puts his knife away. The butler still wonders if this kid is actually ambitious enough to go this far just for a title. Gotta admit, he is both super strong and incredibly smart. Ultimately, Cornell feels like this deal sounds way too good to be true. So he totally suspects Colin is plotting something. Putting that aside, he tells the kid to follow him to his new home, the servant quarters. At the quarters, Cornell shows our main character around and tells him to pick any spot he likes. He explains that the madam divided the servants into 3 distinct ranks. Top tier directly serves the madam, the master, and their son. Meanwhile, middle tier gets to actually live inside the mansion right alongside them. The absolute lowest tier is stuck in separate quarters and isn't even allowed near the main mansion. Then, the butler lists out his chores: chopping wood, taking out the trash, and taking care of the horses. Getting paid 3 copper coins a day. Before leaving, he drops the strict house rules on him. The biggest one: absolute obedience to every single higher-ranking servant here. Our guy looks around and notices that many of these servants look more like straight-up thugs than actual workers. He wonders if he really has to obey people like this. Cornell calmly explains that these rules were personally set up by the lady of the house. The main character accepts the conditions without fighting back and greets the other servants, saying he looks forward to working together. Instead of being normal, the servants start totally mocking him, sarcastically calling him the future lord of the territory. One of them steps right up and mentions they already heard how the kid picked a huge fight with the madam and her son. Another one smirks and says they will teach him the right way to greet his superiors. Now watch closely. Things get wild when one of them smashes a glass bottle for a weapon. He orders our guy to kneel down and slap his own face, repeating that he hopes to work with them until they are satisfied. The rest of the gang starts laughing too, but our boy absolutely does not take disrespect lightly. He grabs the thug's finger, and before the guy can even blink, he gets instantly overpowered and tossed around like an absolute rag doll. The other servants stare in pure disbelief as Colin kicks the dude and launches him through the air. Before they can even process what just went down, the main character calmly declares he won't hold back, slapping the thug while repeating that exact same line about hoping to work together. The other servants lose their minds and charge in with full killer intent. But Colin reacts instantly. He whips out his sword and smacks them right in the face with the hilt, completely stopping their rush. One of them stumbles backward and quickly realizes his buddy just lost a freaking tooth. But before he can even react properly, Colin is already on the move once again. He leaps forward and lands a clean flying kick that sends another thug flying without any chance to resist. The second thug slowly wakes up, only to find Colin already standing right in front of him with his sword drawn. Our guy calmly asks if he is satisfied now. The thug quickly agrees to save his own life, but the exact moment Colin turns his back, He tries a sneak attack again, with that broken bottle in hand. You and I know that is a terrible idea. In a flash, everything instantly changes. Colin stands perfectly still with his sword in position, completely unbothered, while the thug drops down, having just lost both hands. While the guy screams in pure agony and panic, Colin slowly sheathes his sword, turns around, and asks if he is satisfied now. Night falls, and our main character figures that by this point he probably already earned Cornell's trust, even though he still can't really predict how things will play out later on. With that in mind, he pops open the magic book and starts learning spells to get stronger. Colin remembers from his past life that Countess Katrina had replaced all of the Hallar's family servants using Darius, placing her own people all over the estate. As a result, her relationship with Darius got even worse over time, though they were already enemies from the very start. To protect himself and keep watch on things, Darius assigns his loyal buddy Cornell as his butler. Cornell is the only person with enough authority around here, not just to kick the Countess out if needed, but also to have a huge say in choosing the next successor. So what do you and I make of this? In his past life, Cornell was brutally killed, letting Countess Katrina boost her own son to power. Not this time, though. Let's dive right in. He figures things would be totally different if that butler survived. Colin realizes his basic magic resistance is practically garbage right now, and definitely won't protect him. So he needs a major level up. He starts grinding to master both defensive and offensive spells. With that thought, he reaches for the book, and boom, the pages explode around him like a crazy, violent hurricane. It feels like the book's knowledge is being violently shoved right into his brain. Instantly, an overwhelming wave of pain completely paralyzes his whole body, feeling just like thousands of angry ants biting him all over at the exact same time. The raw energy coursing through him becomes absolutely unbearable. It's like dunking his blood, bones, and soul into literal boiling magma. A sketchy Dark Knight figure literally pops right out of the book and calls Colin's name. The next second, it teleports behind him, whispering super creepy stuff about destruction, falling, and submitting. Our main character struggles hard under the pressure, wondering if this absolute torture is the true price of magic. He flashes back to a past buddy who said you just gotta close your eyes, feel the magical flow, and let it happen naturally. He thinks being a noble must be a total cakewalk, learning magic as easily as breathing. He clearly sees that massive gap created by overpowered bloodlines. Still, he forces himself to stand his ground, slapping his hand on the book and declaring he'll win no matter what. But right before he can even finish that thought, watch closely here, guys. Something totally catches him off guard, and a chilling sound echoes across the entire space. The next morning, the servants are up and running, doing their usual daily grind of washing up for work, when the local bullies spot our main character just waking up. One dude immediately starts mocking him. He points out how super chill he looks for a guy who caused major trouble with his bosses before sleeping. Our boy casually fires back that he totally expected to get shanked in his sleep, but clearly, these cowards didn't even try. Before they can even process that roast, he adds it probably wouldn't have mattered anyway. He does a little sleepy stretch, casually dropping that his hardcore night training left him absolutely exhausted. He decides food comes first, work later. Then he just casually adds like it's nothing, that his crazy all-nighter paid off, and he finally unlocked a super special type of eternal magic. Before things can escalate into a brawl, the camera pans right outside the main mansion, where a squad of heavily armed guards pushes through, aggressively forcing everybody out of the way. The servants immediately bow in pure terror as the crew rolls up. A guard screams for everyone to make way for their one-eyed lieutenant. One poor servant up front gets completely startled while carrying a heavy water bucket. He misses his cue to dodge, and a guard just kicks him in the gut, sending him crashing down. Water spills everywhere, splashing directly onto the lieutenant's fancy shoes. The boss stops dead, staring down at the stain. His hyped-up assistant instantly starts screaming at the guy for daring to dirty their boss's footwear. The lieutenant raises a hand to silence him, slowly walking over to the shaking servant on the ground. The poor guy apologizes a million times, begging for his life and swearing he was just distracted. The lieutenant gives a tiny smile, saying it can't be helped, making it look like he's actually forgiving him. We both thought he was safe, right? Think again. The boss's face turns totally stone cold. He calmly states that eyes unable to watch their surroundings are absolutely useless, in one lightning-fast motion. He literally rips his eye out. The servant screams in pure agony while the lieutenant coldly makes him match his own single-eyed look. All the other servants stare at the screaming man, completely frozen in pure horror and pity. But the assistant barks instantly, asking what they're staring at and ordering everybody to kneel down. Right then, our main guy strolls past them without slowing down, basically ignoring the bloody scene entirely. His absolutely carefree walk catches the assistant off guard, leaving him stunned, unsure whether to react or just ignore it. The protagonist is deep in thought, simply wondering what to grab for breakfast. Since the servants around here never get hooked up with decent meals. The bully who got wrecked earlier spots him. He tells the lieutenant that this is the exact dude who sliced his hands off yesterday. He warns the kid was mumbling all night like a psycho. Trust me, you want to see what happens next. All right, stick with me here. The lieutenant narrows his eyes, realizing our boy is wildly unpredictable and straight up dangerous. He calls him out. The MC finally stops and just stares at him with zero fear, coldly asking if he wants his hands chopped off too. The lieutenant licks the blood right off his fingers, bragging that they aren't some soft-hearted nobles or part of the Countess's weak crew. The other guards step up, loudly laying down their hardcore rules of payback, saying it is strictly an eye for an eye. Then they flat out challenge our guy, asking if he wants to chop his own arms off or let them do it. Our hero stays totally chill, not even blinking, and instead claps back with a crazy cold counteroffer. He tells them they can choose to either lose their hands or lose their heads. But the lieutenant just smirks, saying he won't be the one fighting him. Instead, he brings out a former champion from the slave arena, telling our boy that this absolute unit will be his opponent. Colin instantly recognizes the guy as a backup guard and mid-level servant named Daku. He starts sweating bullets because he never expected to run into his literal best friend in a situation like this. Colin remembers him as his absolute closest bro. Someone he could always trust with his life before the regression. They hung out all the time, even fighting terrifying monsters totally side by side. Now, though, the poor dude is just standing there as a mid-level servant, clearly looking like he just took a massive beating. As our boy grips his sword, he tries to rile him up, asking if he is seriously going to fight for some total loser. Daku raises his blade and points it straight at Colin, replying that he is just following the strict rule where juniors must absolutely obey their seniors. Our guy questions that messed up logic, asking if they aren't even allowed to speak up while getting treated like total trash. Those words completely catch the slave boy off guard for a second. Now watch this crazy move. Colin uses that tiny distraction to snatch the blade away, instantly lunging forward and putting the lieutenant at sword point. The lackeys are absolutely stunned by the kid's insane speed. Even Daku just stands there looking completely shocked, realizing his weapon was taken before he could even blink or process what happened. The lieutenant nearly wets himself from pure fear, but somehow manages to keep his cool, desperately asking Colin if he has any idea who he is messing with. He reminds the kid that Lord Freed personally handpicked him, and going against him will bring some seriously heavy consequences. Colin slowly pulls his sword back without saying a single word. The lieutenant fixes his collar, feeling safe again, and immediately goes right back to acting like a tough guy, insisting that our boy won't be walking out of here without facing some kind of brutal punishment. The scumbag then orders his men to teach Daku a lesson. Without hesitating, the servants viciously slash the poor dude's back, making him bleed out. He calls him useless trash and orders his goons to show absolutely zero mercy. The minions loudly mock him as they keep going. They even stab a blade straight through his hand, claiming this is his punishment for failing, since he just blew his only shot to prove he was actually worth something. You and I both knew this was coming. Colin's rage finally explodes, and he instantly wipes out both minions, slicing their throats clean. While his back is turned to the lieutenant, the ugly servant leader spots a tiny opening. He quickly gets into a stance, ready to end the kid's life with one single, cowardly strike. But his movement is way too clumsy, and before he can even follow through, his sword gets sliced perfectly in half. Colin coldly warns him that next time, it won't be his weapon getting cut, but his own body. Just as he raises his blade to strike again, Daku suddenly blocks the attack. He steps right in front of the lieutenant to protect him, standing his ground. Despite everything, he acts like a totally loyal guard and faces Colin, telling him to stop stacking up his sins. By disrespecting his superiors, even though his own hand is still dripping blood from the stab wound. Since he has zero intention of fighting Daku, Colin lets the lieutenant go and straight up tells all the servants to leave the area immediately, while his former best bro calmly sheathes his sword. Colin questions him, asking why he refuses to fight back when he is clearly the strongest one here and could have easily crushed those weak opponents. Daku answers him with pure anger, saying Colin is basically a dead man walking for defying his superior, and because of that, he has absolutely no interest in talking to him anymore. Trust me, this part right here will make your blood completely boil. Instead of thanking Daku for saving his life, the lieutenant violently shoves the guy's head underwater. The ungrateful lieutenant blames him for just standing there doing absolutely nothing. Let's dive right in. This jerk claims the poor kid made him look like a total fool. The kid apologizes, but boom, violently thrown straight to the ground. One of the lackeys chimes in, asking the lieutenant if he's seriously gonna let him off that easy. Hearing that, the guy bursts out laughing. He orders his flunky to spread a nasty rumor that this kid just declared all-out war on every single senior servant. Then he strips the kid of his rank completely and throws him straight into isolation. Colin turns to Daku, asking why he keeps taking this garbage without fighting back. But the poor guy just grits his teeth in pure silence. Later that day at lunch, the top-tier senior servants are chilling, totally enjoying a massive, super luxurious feast. Meanwhile, a mid-level maid is absolutely geeking out to her buddy about a dream where she got promoted. She literally can't hide her hype just thinking about it. At the same time, the low-rank grunts get nothing but a sad bowl of soup instead of real food. Surprisingly, though, none of them are even complaining about it. Right at that exact moment, our boy rolls up to the counter to grab some grub. He looks around, super confused, asking why everyone is staring at him like he's crazy. The cook purposefully spills his soup, laughing in his face. No work means absolutely no food. Colin just brushes it off like it's nothing. Instead, he strolls right past them, heading straight for the VIP section meant only for the senior servants. Watch closely right here. He calmly walks into the upper-tier dining zone. The senior guys are absolutely raging, but he just shoves them aside, totally unbothered. He hits the real buffet, casually grabbing a croissant and a piece of chicken to chow down on. Butler Cornell steps in, giving him a firm reminder that this spot is strictly reserved for the high-ranking crew only. The senior servants immediately start yelling, demanding the butler properly punish this total outcast. But honestly, instead of dropping the hammer on him, the head butler quickly spins a clever excuse to defuse the whole situation. He covers for him, saying the kid is brand new and rookies always make stupid mistakes. Then he tells Colin to follow him, leaving all the senior servants glaring in total disappointment. Walking away, Cornell reminds him about the rule of absolute obedience to superiors. He wants to know why Colin ignored it. But Colin claps right back. He points out the Marquis himself said rewards are based strictly on pure skill, not your rank. He adds that he's easily skilled enough to earn a proper, decent meal. So he just took it himself. The butler then offers a deal. He'll cover his living expenses. But in exchange, our boy has to hunt down a spy hiding somewhere inside the estate. Right on cue, the hunting signal blows. Looks like the Marquis is heading straight out to the private hunting grounds. Apparently, there's been some really shady activity going down in the deep, dark forest nearby. So the Lord plans to investigate it himself while hunting along the way. As Colin finishes his last bite of food, a sly smile creeps onto his face. He's thinking about that dark forest. He's already planning to go there. You and I know he doesn't waste time. Scene cuts, and our boy is already in the woods hunting a red-eyed black deer. He fires off multiple arrows, successfully taking his target down. After finishing the beast off, he walks right up to the carcass and starts digging for the monster core, holding that glowing, dark purple core right in his hand. He remembers these are basically massive luxury items, usually turned into fancy necklaces and rich people bling. But thanks to that forbidden magic book he read, he realizes he can actually use it to brew potions that recover mana and insanely buff his physical body. From what he knows, a core's properties completely change depending on the rank and type of the monster it dropped from. Since the deer he just wrecked was a low-tier creature, the core he pulled out is definitely the absolute lowest quality. The story then flashes back real quick. While walking with Cornell, Colin actually asked for permission to enter the hunting grounds. Normally, it's strict royalty-only territory, but because of the crazy, abnormal stuff happening right now, only the divine guards and a few highly authorized VIPs are allowed inside the zone. Colin pushes to go anyway. He flat-out suggests that he could just join the divine guards himself. And somehow, that crazy play works. Back in the present, while he's pulling the core, Daku suddenly pops out. He's furious, totally roasting Colin for going completely rogue. He yells that only nobles or mid-level servants can hunt here. If he gets caught, he's looking at some insanely brutal, heavy consequences. Colin acts like he literally couldn't care less. He casually snatches Daku's sword right out of his hand and stabs the blade into the dead beast. Trust me, you gotta love his response. He claims the kill belongs to Daku now. Stick with me here, because since Daku is a middle-class servant, this shouldn't be a problem anymore. But Daku instantly loses his mind over this wild troll logic. He completely regrets getting tangled up with a low-class servant who just keeps making his life way more complicated. When he demands to know why Cornell even let Colin tag along with them, our boy just whips out the head butler's dagger. He flashes it right at him, claiming he got a special mission and the dagger is straight-up proof. Plus, here is where it gets good. He explains they both gotta help investigate, and while doing that, they also need to score some actually decent food. Daku just kneels down next to the monster's corpse and glares at our guy. He is wondering how he got cursed with such awful luck to be paired up with this dude. He sighs, but the second he looks back down, he realizes the meat is entirely gone. Turns out the outcast has already started grilling the meat in the blink of an eye. He even casually calls Daku over to come grab a bite with him. Daku completely panics on the spot and frantically asks him what the heck he thinks he is doing. And trust me, Colin shows absolutely zero guilt. Stick with me here. Daku is straight up panicking, reminding our guy this premium meat is strictly for the big bosses. But our hero just shrugs, saying there is way too much food anyway, and tells the dude to sit down and eat. At first, the poor servant tries to play by the rules, but then Colin drops facts. You only eat once every 3 days, man. Get punished later, and you are literally starving. That breaks him. Daku finally caves. The smell of that sizzling cooked meat is just too good, and he starts absolutely wolfing it down like a starving animal. While he is eating, here is the million-dollar question, guys. Colin asks why he blindly follows boss orders when he is literally way stronger than all of them. Daku wipes his mouth and says muscle means nothing here. He completely bought the brainwashing, repeating the classic line that nobles are basically God's chosen VIP agents, handed absolute divine power. He really believes if he keeps grinding hard and staying obedient, maybe he will get reborn as a noble and snag that same holy blessing. He explains how he busted his tail just to rank up to a mid-level servant position. And trust me, this hits hard. He did it all to make his little sister back home proud. Let's dive right in. He tells Colin to back off, mind his own business, and stop being so completely nosy. He totally goes off, saying they are super lucky just to be servants and should just quietly do their chores without running their mouths. Then Colin totally calls him out, asking if he is acting salty just because he wants some sweet magic powers. Hearing that, the angry servant immediately dares him to try learning even a single spell if he actually can. In response, Colin turns right back to him and asks what he would do if he actually taught him magic. That crazy statement completely shocks the guy, and he quickly asks if our main character can seriously use magic. Before our boy can even answer, they both totally jump at a sudden scream of pure agony from nearby. Now pay attention here, because they quickly realize that scream came from knights patrolling the deep, super dark woods. A massive magical beast is savagely biting down right into one of their shoulders. Their squad leader orders his men to hold formation and stay chill against this sudden danger. But honestly, he is learning real fast that words just are not cutting it. Especially not while his men are getting absolutely wrecked left and right by these ruthless beasts. One of these magic beasts totally lunges at him, forcing him to lock his sword and shield against those gnarly fangs. Never in his entire career did he think a pack of random wild dogs would cause such major trouble. He puts his back into it, slashing through the jaw of the beast and shoving its lifeless body away with one heavy strike. Suddenly, his panic-stricken subordinate urgently yells that 3 more of them are charging straight at his back. You and I both know he is completely doomed. The leader just stands there in silence, waiting for the end. Right in the nick of time, 3 arrows suddenly slam into the jugulars of those 3 beasts, leaving them heavily wounded and stumbling. The epic heroes who showed up to save the day drop in, calmly asking if they are safe for now. Our boy carefully checks out the beasts, remembering they are called blue flames because of their totally awesome flaming manes and tails. The meat and bones of this beast are seriously so valuable, you could comfortably kick back for days after bagging one. But really, trust me, his real target is the super powerful glowing monster core. He aims carefully, ready to absolutely hunt every last one of them tonight. Let's dive right in. Colin leaps way up into the sky, making himself look like a total snack for the magic beasts below. Stick with me here. The Knight Leader sees this reckless move and completely thinks our boy is a massive idiot walking straight into the lion's den. But the reality is exactly the opposite, bro. Our main character is the actual apex predator here. He looks at these monsters grouping up to hunt as nothing but weak, desperate little mutts. He cleanly sinks an arrow right into 3 heads and lands super smoothly on the dirt. Thinking it has an open shot, one magic beast has the absolute audacity to quickly try and ambush our guy from behind. It is literally like time has completely slowed down for him. Our boy casually leans way back to dodge with insane precision. Then, he delivers a massive kick straight to its gut, sending that thing right back to the hell it came from. Seeing him punt a massive beast like it was just a tiny puppy. All the knights are totally stunned and shook, while he stays cold and calculating. Colin smoothly shoots it right in the chest one last time to make absolutely sure it is dead. Seconds later, way more magic beasts come creeping out of the dark woods, which turns out to be a fatal mistake, because he unleashes an absolute rain of arrows, wiping them all out instantly. The leader watches his overpowered combat skills up close in pure disbelief. He literally cannot believe his own eyes. This one single warrior has the raw power to wipe out way more magic beasts than his entire squad put together. Suddenly, our boy senses an insanely powerful and completely dangerous energy heading right for him. He leaps out of the way just in time as a huge, violent pillar of burning blue flames crashes down exactly where he was just standing. It came from a monster that looks totally different and way more massive than all the rest. Don't blink now. He realizes exactly what is coming next when he sees those bright blue sparks charging up inside its mouth. Opening its massive jaws, 3 blazing blue fireballs shoot out straight at his face. Weaving through them like a total veteran hunter, he counters the attack with 3 razor-sharp arrows from his own bow. To quickly end the poor puppy's suffering, he absolutely stomps his heel right down onto its skull with crazy force. Man, that is insanely brutal. The raw power of his kick drives the beast's head deep underground, making it look like a scared ostrich. Right at that very second, an arrow whistles right past his face, a quick reminder that he is still totally surrounded by people who are definitely not his friends. But it turns out, that shot was actually aimed at a beast sneaking up behind him that he had zero clue was even there. Daku quickly yells out a warning, telling him not to drop his guard during such a chaotic fight. My boy tosses him a quick thumbs up as a solid thank you. Meanwhile, Taku sighs totally annoyed just like a classic tsundere. Completely impressed, Captain Glenn genuinely wants to know which lord these insanely skilled warriors actually work for. Right before Colin can totally ruin yet another solid introduction. Daku steps right up, introducing himself and his buddy as a reserve divine guard and some low-rank servant. He claims the butler of Marquis Darius Cornell sent them out here as backup support. Our duo's weird cover completely stuns Glenn. You and I know that's fake. Hearing that they just got saved by a backup guard and a low-tier servant, the royal guards instantly react with some very obvious disgust. The lady asks what on earth Cornell was thinking sending old maids to help them out. At the same time, another guard mutters that getting rescued by low-tier amateurs is completely embarrassing. Hearing that rude comment, innocent Daku still has no idea who exactly they are calling an old maid. Meanwhile, Colin uses this little break to harvest magic cores from the dead monsters. He finally scores a solid mid-rank core. He can use this later to brew up a potion by following the exact instructions written in his magic book. But suddenly, Some huge beefy knight screams at him, demanding to know who gave him permission to even touch the monsters. His captain, Glenn, jumps in and says they need to focus on Lord Darius's mission, telling the guy to just let Colin handle the monster corpses. Our boy looks at the big dude and asks who he's calling a brat, quickly reminding him who just saved his life. He adds that only a massive meathead would talk so aggressively to the exact person who just bilayed them out. Super annoyed by that clapback, the big guy shifts like he is about to launch right at him. However, both the girl and Captain Glenn step up fast and tell him to chill out. They call him Marvin, and the absolute second our guy hears that name, all these old memories from his past life come flooding right back. Back in the day, besides Cornell, the only people Lord Darius actually trusted were Glenn, Marvin, and Sarah. In his previous life, those three died during a tough mission deep in the Gloomwood Forest. After that huge loss, Lord Darius slowly started losing all his power. Our hero never expected he would be the one changing their fate this time. Wild, right? All right, stick with me here. Remembering that pain, he silently swears he won't let history repeat. Seeing the tension spike, Daku quickly apologizes for his buddy, explaining he is the new guy and totally clueless about the rules. He begs them not to take the harsh words straight to heart. Sarah claps back, saying the wrinkly witch's lapdog needs to just zip it. Once again, Daku is totally lost, completely missing the point of her weirdly specific insult. Glenn asks Colin point blank if he is the arrogant rookie who bragged about becoming the next absolute lord. He admits the kid is strong, but warns he will definitely regret chasing wild dreams that are way above his actual pay grade. Right before leaving, Captain Glenn thanks our boy for the save, apologizing since they have an urgent mission to hit. Suddenly, a massive roar echoes out, totally jump-scaring everyone in the area. Out of absolutely nowhere, a pack of blue flames drops in, looking exactly like some crazy mega evolution upgrade. Spotting this giant magical beast, the three of them freeze up entirely, and Sarah screams that it is an Azure King. The Azure King, rocking its gigantic size and blazing blue fire, leaves them absolutely stunned. It lets out a roar so insanely loud that everyone starts shaking with pure fear. It swipes its claws to attack, but the whole crew is way too slow to even react or twitch a muscle. Captain Glenn's life basically flashes before his eyes, squeezing them shut and thinking his entire squad is completely cooked. When they finally look up, trust me, you won't believe what happens next. A low-rank servant, a guy with supposedly zero combat skills, just tanked the Azure King's attack. Captain Glenn is totally shook and asks who he actually is. Being the total aura farmer that he is, Colin smoothly replies he is the hero who just saved their bacon twice in one single day. Since basic attacks do absolutely zero damage to the Azure King, our boy steps up, unleashing his special mountain crusher move right at the giant wolf. But tragically, the hit is way too shallow, completely failing to do real damage against this elite creature's tough hide. The wolf instantly counters, and Colin desperately tries to block it. But he cannot fully absorb the insane impact, so his sword instantly shatters, sending him flying backward through the air. After taking that massive hit, he realizes he cannot beat this absolute monster in his current state. A regular sword barely even scratches the guy. Seeing this, the three royal guards rush in for cover, and Sarah quickly asks our hero if he is still breathing. Captain Glenn warns the squad that the Azure King is a high-tier boss monster that has already slaughtered tons of elite soldiers in the past. Right on cue, the Azure King orders its mob of minions to surround the group and jump them from every single angle. At this point, Marvin completely panics about what their next move should be. These mob enemies are already a massive headache to handle, And now the big boss is here too. Our boy calmly says they should not even sweat the little guys. They have zero actual intelligence and are basically just acting like the king's mindless puppets. You and I know how this works. Just crush the boss and minions vanish. Captain Glenn can barely process what he just heard. Meanwhile, Daku points out this beast already packed up elite guards, so their odds of winning are basically at absolute zero. He asks his buddy how exactly he plans to win using a busted sword. Confident as ever, Colin smoothly replies that they should at least give it a shot. This makes Daku think his bro has totally lost his marbles. Still, Captain Glenn actually agrees with the wild plan, saying survival only happens if they fight as a unit. Meanwhile, Sarah points out that reaching the king is not gonna be easy, while his loyal minions are blocking the way. Firing back, our boy confidently assures her that there is absolutely nothing to sweat about. An opening is going to pop up soon. Right then, the Azure King suddenly roars, and the mindless puppets completely launch themselves into attack mode. Colin totally chills out, telling everyone to hold their ground and just let the enemies get closer. Marvin instantly yells at him, demanding who gave him the right to bark out orders. Surprisingly, Captain Glenn steps in, saying this is no time for petty arguments. He straight up orders his men to follow their hero's lead. Before pushing forward, Colin tells Daku to trust him, especially if he wants to become a big brother his sister can actually be super proud of. Right then, Captain Glenn screams that the enemy is already right on top of them. But here is what you and I need to watch. He actually waits for them to get closer before finally dropping the big signal to strike. First up, he directs Captain Glenn to pop his holy protection skill to completely blind them. Next, he tells Marvin to knock them all backward using the epic Heaven Shaker move. Finally, he commands Sarah to carve out a path using her phantom sword. Following his game plan perfectly, everyone hits their marks, clearing a straight path right through the enemy line. As the captain fights, he seriously wonders, let's dive right in. How is our guy so insanely skilled with all these different weapon styles? Opening created. Our boy immediately yells for Daku to follow his lead. Meanwhile, Sarah gives her own weird pep talk, telling the dripping kid not to mess this whole thing up. Poor Daku is just totally confused by that weird nickname. Taking full advantage of the gap, Colin and Daku sprint straight for the king. Mid-run, Daku asks for the plan. He explains that everybody is terrified of the Azure King, so if they charge head-on with zero fear, the beast will be too stunned. Daku still isn't buying this crazy logic. He asks how exactly they're supposed to attack this giant boss with a broken sword once they reach it. In response, our boy just smirks and asks if he can think of literally any other way to attack without relying on a sword. Then it hits Daku. He remembers hearing that Colin can actually use magic. He starts wondering if this crazy kid is actually going to pull off defeating the king. The very next second, Colin manifests a pure line of mana from his hands. This fires up the magic flowing through his entire body to maximum capacity. Now watch closely. With his mana maxed out, he unleashes a devastating move called Ice Lotus, holding absolutely nothing back. The Azure King gets absolutely blasted by countless ice shards. Daku can barely believe what he's watching unfold right in front of him. The monster tanks the heavy assault, so Daku leaps forward, landing right on its head. He plunges his sword straight into the creature's skull with everything he's got. Our hero backs up the strike with his eternal magic. Next second, the monster completely collapses as a massive beam of light shoots straight up from the ground. The moment it drops, all the smaller azure wolves scatter back into the woods in pure terror. Daku is just standing there, struggling to process everything. He stares in total disbelief, as the entire battlefield falls completely silent after such an insanely intense showdown. The royal guards rush forward, frantically checking to see if everyone is all right now that the fight is officially over. Captain Glenn points out that the Yamei's wolves only ran off because their pack leader just got totally wrecked. Meanwhile, Marvin is mind blown. He wonders how they managed to take down something that huge without any backup. Colin replies that the plan only worked thanks to their support. Honestly, who knows how bad it would have turned out without their help today. Sarah takes a really close look at one leftover ice shard. She's definitely starting to get super suspicious about our hero's true abilities. Marvin mentions the kid totally reminds him of the captain in his younger days. This just leaves Daku scratching his head over who this old captain even is. Marvin explains that Marquis Darius Hall used to lead them. Sarah chimes in, adding that they all served under him in the legendary Lionheart Brigade. Are you guys following this lore? She explains that after the brigade disbanded, the surviving members eventually ended up becoming part of the Royal Guard. Then she throws sarcastic shade, saying not even the old lady's dog knows such basic facts. And that right there is what makes Daku finally snap. He gets right in her face for calling him the old lady's dog, proudly declaring that his actual name is Daku. He demands she carve his name into her brain, clapping right back by calling her an old hag without hesitating. Oh, that comment definitely strikes a nerve. Sarah goes dead silent while Marvin awkwardly stammers that she actually meant the Countess when she said old lady. Daku looks totally blindsided by this new revelation. But before he can even process it, Sarah practically teleports right in front of him, aggressively demanding to know why he thinks she looks old. She argues she is still in the absolute prime of her youthful beauty, no matter what anybody else has to say about it. But Daku completely refuses to back down, stubbornly insisting that she is way past her prime. He calls her out for being delusional, her response, instantly throwing him into a ruthless, zero-mercy chokehold. Our hero gets a brief flashback, remembering when Daku and the crew used to joke around in this exact same chaotic way. But the memory fades fast. The heavy sound of approaching horse hooves suddenly snaps him right out of his thoughts. Young Master Fried rolls onto the scene, and literally everyone reacts with total shock the second they spot him. They immediately bow down in respect as he announces he came rushing over from the camp, the second he heard the nearby commotion. He spots the massive fallen blue flame wolves and asks what in the world actually went down here. Captain Glenn explains they had pushed deeper into Gloomwood Forest to investigate, when the pack suddenly ambushed them out of nowhere without any warning. He admits they definitely wouldn't have survived the encounter if Colin and Daku hadn't stepped in at the exact right moment. Fried shifts focus to our hero, who is totally tunnel-visioned on looting monster cores like literally nothing else matters. Fried wonders why a guy like him is even hanging around this crazy scene. Captain Glenn steps up, praising their insane potential. Stick around, guys, because we know they're just getting started. All right, stick with me here. He asks to head back to camp and report their epic wins to the family boss. Fried instantly remembers that Colin is already challenging him for the succession. He knows straight up that news of this huge victory is gonna put him at a massive disadvantage. While that nasty thought sinks in, he shoots a glare at Daku and quietly starts cooking up his own scheme. He walks over to Daku, saying he was wondering why he hasn't seen him around lately. Boom, the tension instantly shoots through the roof. He asks why Daku has been hanging out with some nobody like Colin, basically hinting that it makes zero sense. He keeps pushing, saying a low-rank servant casually stepping onto the main estate grounds counts as a massive violation. He asks if Daku wanted a taste of loot that was clearly off-limits. Daku just stays totally silent while Freed calls him completely useless. He even adds that his sister Erica would be super disappointed if she knew he forgot the hard lessons they taught him before. Colin jumps in, saying Daku is still way better than some spoiled brat who literally can't function without his mommy holding his hand. He then sarcastically bows to Freed and straight up calls him a failure. Sarah lets out a quiet little laugh. Meanwhile, Captain Glenn tells Colin to stay in his lane and not make this crazy situation any worse. Freed gets absolutely furious at the insult, but Colin just keeps roasting him. He explains people do not bow because Freed is awesome. They only do it because his mom is the Countess. Now watch closely. The whole crowd is totally shocked as Colin adds that playing boss is super easy when you have mommy and daddy backing you. Freed tries intimidating him, claiming he can kill him without breaking a sweat. Colin calmly nods, but says the only way Freed can actually do that is by running crying to his mom, begging her to handle the mean servant bothering him. Freed totally loses it. He orders his men to grab him right now. Chains suddenly appear as these assassins tie Colin up under the young lord's direct command. One of the assassins presses a deadly blade right against Colin's throat. Everyone watches as the whole vibe gets dangerously tense. The royal guards immediately recognize these assassins as the Empire Swords, an elite group of totally ruthless infiltrators used by the Williams family. Sarah mentions that even top nobles are terrified of them because of their brutal methods and crazy skills. She wonders why the Countess actually trusts them to protect her kid. Right before things spiral completely out of control, Captain Glenn steps right up and asks Freed to just let it go. He reminds him both servants came to help the investigation under the main Lord's direct orders. Freed grits his teeth, aggressively asking if Glenn is planning to oppose him. But Colin just cuts him off, telling the captain not to even worry about him. Instead, he asks him to go report the investigation results straight to the family head. You and I both see his play here, right? Sarah quickly gets that Colin is giving them an out since picking sides is too risky. Glenn totally hesitates, but finally caves in and backs off with the others, incredibly frustrated. Freed glares down at Colin, asking if he finally understands how helpless he really is now that his life is entirely in the young lord's hands. Colin just tells him to do it if that is his plan, but Freed smirks, saying he has a way better idea. He slowly draws his sword. He calls out to Daku, saying every action has consequences, before tossing the weapon right in front of him. He tells Daku he can redeem himself if he simply picks up the sword and kills the servant. This leaves Daku completely, utterly speechless. Freed then promises he will let Daku walk away totally free if he follows the order. The story then flashes all the way back to Colin's life, right before the regression. Just 1 month after the demons crash down to Earth, he is getting absolutely wrecked by mutant monsters that look like a nasty mix of goblins and ogres. The monster lord has already captured him, and just relentlessly mocks him for being such a pathetic savior. The demon lord kicks a sword his way, saying he will trade all the humans he has captured, but only if Colin kills his buddy Daku, who was captured with him. Daku looks completely on the edge, barely able to even stay on his feet. The demon lord just sits there eating up the drama. He is so satisfied making humanity's big hero kill his own best friend with his bare hands. With literally zero other options, Colin plays along and tightly grips the sword. He walks toward Daku, who starts talking and spilling his tragic backstory. He says the exact day his dad died was also his sister Erica's birthday. Shortly after that mess, his mom died from some unknown illness, leaving them both. Now total orphans, they got captured and forced into slavery. He says Marquis Darius finally found them and bought them both. But his luck did not save them completely, since he was still forced to separate from his beloved sister. Trust me, this is where we leave it. She got shipped to the Williams estate by the second wife's orders. Wild, right? Stick with me here. Since demons have not reached the estate yet, Daku begs Colin to protect his sister as his absolute final wish. He honestly believes she will be totally safe there. He mentions she is super picky with food. Finally, he asks Colin to tell her he died a brave knight, just so she stays happy knowing he fought for her until the bitter end. Hearing this final request, Colin deeply apologizes to his buddy. Fast forward to the present, and both best friends are completely stuck in reversed roles. This time around, Colin is chained up tight, while Daku is actually forced to execute him. Frade spots Daku hesitating and demands to know why he is not following orders. Daku totally takes Colin's side, arguing back against the entitled young lord. He argues they definitely should not execute the exact guy who just saved them from certain death. Frade totally plays dirty by dragging Erika into the mix. He asks how she would feel knowing her brother abandoned her for some stranger, constantly provoking him with more twisted claims about his little sister. Frade casually drops that he recently heard from the Williams family butler that she was literally skipping meals to buy him a sword, and actually passed out from pure starvation just a week ago. This shocking statement immediately absolutely terrifies Daku. He quickly drops to his knees, begging the young lord to save her. Frade, successfully manipulating him, says he will do it if he kills Colin. Hearing this absolute garbage, Colin just starts laughing like a total maniac. When Frade asks what is so funny, Colin mocks him for being a total coward. Now pay attention here. Colin provokes him, proposing a death match against Daku to make things way more entertaining for the twisted lord. Frade suddenly gets super anxious, totally failing to figure out Colin's crazy plan. Wondering if Colin fears the Empire's swords, he decides to watch the chaos unfold, accepting the proposal and letting him loose. Colin immediately gets into position, standing right in front of his best friend. Ready for a massive brawl. Seeing the blade, Daku hesitates, wondering if he is serious, but Frade uses his sister again to force his hand. By then, Colin has already launched his attack, rushing at Daku with absolutely full force. Taken completely by surprise, Daku gets thrown way off balance. Our main character recovers super fast for another strike, but Daku finally intercepts this blow. He repeatedly demands to know why he is doing this, forcing him to block. Our guy simply apologizes, insisting he really does not want to be the dead one here. This finally pushes Daku into an aggressive stance, forcing the protagonist to jump back and increase the gap. Our guy warns his opponent he will finish him in only 3 moves. This cocky attitude pisses Daku off big time, claiming he does not need 3 moves and will end this in exactly 3 seconds instead. The duel gets insanely intense as both of them violently dash toward each other. But right before their swords clash, our guy whispers he would never abandon his comrades. You probably saw this coming, right? Daku realizes this whole duel is just a fake out, deciding to play along and create a massive distraction. This sudden chaos creates the perfect opening, letting our protagonist dash forward and strike straight at Frade. However, Frade intercepts the blade at the last second, using his powerful thunder magic. Seeing him actually block, the main character totally roasts him for finally showing some real guts. The spoiled mama's boy hears this savage mockery. Absolutely raging, he screams not to underestimate him, acting so incredibly tough, right as our guy gets pushed backward. The Empire's swordsmen prepare to attack, but Frade stops them cold, screaming at everyone to stay back. Frade is utterly triggered now, claiming he will be the one to permanently end our boy, demanding zero outside interference during the kill. He gathers pure lightning, making our guy super tense as his epic system detects a ridiculously powerful magical energy source right there. To evaluate his rival, Colin quickly scans Freyd's system data. Zero magic resistance, and his lightning stats are totally mediocre. Still, the system warns his current level cannot tank it. Seeing this, our daredevil grins like crazy. He totally prefers checking for himself if that system data is correct. Trust me, this is epic. Summoning freezing ice, he directly counters the furious purple lightning. Alright, you and I are about to jump straight into absolute chaos. The elements violently clash together, literally destroying everything in their path. As a massive dust cloud rolls in, Freed honestly thinks his eyes are totally playing tricks on him. Because a low-rank commoner like him should never be able to use magic. Ever. Their epic first exchange ends in a total draw. Or, well, that is what Freed confidently assumes. Suddenly, sharp ice shards shoot right out from the heavy dust. He easily vaporizes them into harmless steam, but the guy is seriously confused. He is totally racking his brain trying to figure out where that ice just came from. Right at that exact moment, our boy totally mocks him, casually asking where all that crazy hype about his amazing magic went. With a deadly glare cutting straight through Freed, he drops the ultimate insult, calling him a failure. Everyone's jaws are literally dropping right now. Seeing a commoner survive a direct blast from a noble, Dak can barely believe his eyes, while the young master is sweating bullets. A basic commoner throwing out ice magic strong enough to counter his attack. He convinces himself it has to be a cheap trick. Summoning his absolute strongest thunder spell, the noble loudly declares that a trash commoner handling real magic is nothing but complete nonsense. Our hero quickly throws up a glowing blue aura to block the crazy powerful, incoming lightning strikes. But out of nowhere, he gets a massive system warning. His magic reserves are completely zeroed out. His defensive shield fails instantly. Game over. Mana exhaustion hits him like a total truck. He is barely standing, using his sword to stay up. Now watch closely, because here is where it gets intense. Surrounded with zero escape route, he just grits his teeth and takes the full fury of Freed's purple lightning straight to the face. The noble is not holding back at all. He attacks with total killing intent, ready to erase him forever. While his skin literally burns under the scorching heat. Colin deeply regrets that he might pathetically lose to the redhead witch for a second time. He flat out refuses to let this second chance at life end up with the same miserable fate. So he forcefully triggers his magic. Even with absolutely zero mana left, the grimoire system flashes a super dark warning. Casting without mana means totally losing control, but honestly, Colin does not care about that even a little bit. He would rather lose his sanity than die drowning in regrets. Slowly, his eye color starts shifting. Freaky blue and black flames suddenly wrap around half his body. In seconds, he transforms, looking exactly like the demons he just killed. Even the magic book system glitches out. All his stats literally just say unknown. Feeling this weird, insane power violently rushing through his veins, he doesn't even know what to think. A blazing headache suddenly kicks in, making it incredibly hard to focus or breathe. Despite the insane pain, our guy notices Freed is practically running on fumes too. One clean, magic-infused slash completely wipes out the noble's lightning. Let that sink in for a second. Freed is watching in pure horror, never seen anything this terrifying. He just freezes up as our protagonist suddenly launches himself high into the air. Slamming his blade into the ground, massive jagged ice spikes explode upward, aiming straight for where Freed is standing. The noble acts all confident, totally thinking his mid-tier thunder magic is more than enough to smash the incoming ice wave. However, reality hits. He realizes way too late that it was all a calculated distraction, just a setup so his opponent could quietly slide behind him like an absolute pro assassin. Colin closes in from the back while Freed is still busy blocking that crazy storm of sharp ice. Freed's pupils shrink in pure terror as his whole life flashes by, in one desperate, last-ditch effort. He barely dodges death by tossing his favorite horse right into the attack as a meat shield. He stumbles onto the grass, absolutely shaken. Meanwhile, our hero just keeps radiating this massive blue mana that looks like it will never run out. Noticing the guy is breathing incredibly heavy right now, the noble figures out his enemy is basically on the verge of collapsing. So, he charges up a Chidori blade, gathering sparking lightning magic right into his palm. Our boy shows absolutely zero fear. He pushes straight through the crackling lightning without even flinching, declaring it is finally time to end this super reckless fight. When that sword stops literally inches from the young master's pale, terrified face, Freed realizes his mom cannot save him today. He leaps backwards, squeezes his eyes shut, and just accepts that he had a pretty good run. And that is where we leave it, right as a glowing golden magic circle saves him from becoming a delicious Turkish delight. All right, stick with me. That magic circle just bounced Colin's force right back, tossing him across the dirt. Both boys are absolutely stunned seeing who just saved Fried, firmly ordering them to knock it off right this second. Lord Darius snaps at the kids, making it crystal clear this isn't some cheap gladiator arena. This is noble house turf, so their pointless brawl ends now, sitting tall on his massive armored horse. He calmly suggests they settle things in a proper, official duel once they head back to the main House H estate. Fried glares at his dad, mixing heavy gratitude with pure, unfiltered hatred. Meanwhile, our boy watches in total silence, rocking those glowing demonic eyes. Once the very last drop of his unstable magic completely drains out, he drops to his knees, totally wiped, and slowly reverts back to normal. Catching that faint but super weird magic aura radiating off him, the Lord is honestly both amazed and pretty worried. Colin realizes the danger is totally gone for now, so he finally lets go and passes out instantly. A solid few days go by before he actually wakes up again. When his eyes snap open, he finds himself chilling in a plush bed inside the House H mansion. But suddenly, he feels that exact same burning sensation from the demonic magic that took over his body. Now watch closely here. He panics, checks his body, but luckily he is totally back to normal with zero weird demon changes. While silently praising the heavens he didn't sprout demon horns, a familiar soft voice right next to him says they are super glad he is finally awake. Our main guy turns his head and spots Daku looking straight like a walking zombie. Bro, honestly it looks like Daku was the one in a 5-day coma. The poor dude quickly fills him in, saying his sudden blackout had literally everyone sweating bullets. Apparently, Sarah had to slap him silly trying to wake him, and Captain Glenn literally hauled him back to the mansion. Sarah panicked so much, she basically held the doctors at knife point, threatening they would share his coffin if they somehow failed to save his life. He kinda struggles believing that. But he cannot deny he actually feels 100% better. Needing fresh air, he invites Daku to grab some breakfast, planning to give Sarah a proper, well-deserved thank you on the way. That being said, he definitely remembers Daku staying completely loyal to the sacred bro code for him. He shoots his buddy a thanks with a sly smirk. Daku plays it totally cool, but he is secretly mind-blown that Colin actually knows the word thanks. Later down in the village, all the other servants literally shake when our hero walks past. He gives them a suspicious side-eye, wondering if he somehow has something weird stuck on his face. Then he catches some maids whispering crazy rumors about his epic fight with Fried, sneaking right up on the girls for a sneaky jump scare. He politely asks what wild gossip they have been spreading about him. Absolutely terrified, the women just instantly bolt without a second thought. Daku just cannot fathom why the women are acting like they spotted a ghost. Playing Sherlock, Colin notices Daku's crazy paleness, figuring they ran from his literal corpse-like vibe. Daku gets mad because he pulled 4 all-nighters for him. Annoyed by the attitude, Colin snaps that he never requested a personal nurse. I know what you are thinking. Who is this guy? Well, the balding lieutenant crashes the scene, loudly mocking the future Lord of House Hall. Totally irritated by the awful timing, both boys basically scream in unison at the idiot that now is not the time. Somehow they actually force the dude into a pointless apology. After standing there totally confused for a second, the lieutenant furiously announces he came today for payback over his recent humiliation, annoyed by the old dude's endless yapping. Our boy steps right up to him, while the guy keeps dropping pathetic excuses for losing their last showdown. This lieutenant, with zero irony, honestly believes things will be totally different this time, and he will finally teach this disrespectful punk an unforgettable lesson. The man snaps his fingers and loudly screams his squad's name. A few incredibly awkward seconds tick by as he stands there, fully expecting our boy to get instantly crushed. When he realizes his men are just standing around like confused little ducks, the lieutenant scowls, angrily asking if they all suddenly went completely deaf. To him, that loud snap is an incredibly obvious signal to attack the target. His troops completely hesitate before nervously reminding their bald boss that this kid is a literal monster who went toe-to-toe against Master Fried. Daku lets out a quick chuckle, 0% surprised by their reaction after seeing Colin fight up close. The lieutenant's forehead twitches hard, a giant vein popping from pure embarrassment. We both see it. His squad is entirely out of guts. All right, let's jump right in. The lieutenant steps up to save whatever dignity he has left. That is when he spots his favorite pawn standing in the most convenient spot. He instantly grabs the poor guy by his collar and shoves him forward. He calls him a traitorous dog who betrayed his master. Calling it a massive offense, the lieutenant decides to play judge and jury right there. The absolute creep actually looks hyped to beat up his totally defenseless subordinate. But our boy stays chilling. He easily blocks that pathetic punch with just one single hand. The lieutenant's arm is totally shaking, locked in our guy's iron grip. He straight up tells this trash bag he has zero authority to actually punish him. Then he casually tosses Lieutenant Baldy aside like an annoying ex who simply refuses to move on. The dude is absolutely flabbergasted, completely unable to process how his obedient little lapdog suddenly grew a massive spine. Hearing all the loud drama, Captain Glenn rolls up, demanding to know why everyone is making so much noise this early in the morning. Marvin and Sarah walk right in after him. Both are visibly annoyed their breakfast got interrupted. The lieutenant lets out an arrogant laugh, fully convinced the royal guard will punish these troublemakers way worse than he could. The greasy kiss-up immediately bows to the elite guards, praising them non-stop. He quickly snitches, claiming he was just doing his noble duty by teaching some manners to the disrespectful little brat standing right behind him. But our dude just casually waves at Captain Glenn like everything is fine. The lieutenant is completely speechless, super offended by how chill he is while addressing a major high ranker. Suddenly, Marvin steps in, literally shoving the lieutenant away, saying he is just so glad to see Colin finally awake. Watching this absolute madness unfold right now, the lieutenant's face literally turns blue from pure utter confusion. Look closely here. He is watching the territory's most elite guards casually joking with this supposed insolent brat, acting like they are absolute best friends. For a brief second, he actually tries to convince himself that this is nothing more than a crazy fever dream. Running out of options, he argues it is totally unacceptable for elite guards to socialize with a low-rank servant. Sarah just throws an arm over his stiff shoulder, bluntly telling him that she literally could not care less about the dumb laws made by that old witch Katrina. She also adds that his super whiny voice is seriously getting on her nerves. So he should keep his mouth shut unless he wants to start wearing a second eye patch. With that friendly warning, our hero joins the royal guards for some breakfast. He turns back with a cheeky smile and politely apologizes to the boss man for embarrassing him yet again. The scene then cuts to them chilling at a nearby bar, totally celebrating his recovery. Colin admits he originally just wanted to thank them for saving his life before, but now he owes them again. On top of that, Sarah just shrugs, saying she was happy to help because she absolutely cannot stand Potato Head. Anyway, Captain Glenn reminds them that Colin actually did them a huge solid in the forest. Super curious, Colin asks Sarah if she has known the grumpy lieutenant for long. The woman instantly gets triggered just thinking about that totally smooth-brained absolute idiot. Wanting to dodge that toxic topic, Captain Glenn swiftly changes the subject to something he has been meaning to discuss for a while. They only have 3 elite knights left in their ranks, and he wants both to join. Colin stays totally cool, but his buddy almost loses his freaking mind at the crazy idea that a substitute like him could actually join the Royal Guard. Glenn hypes it up as a massive opportunity because it grants them all the sweet privileges reserved for high-ranking servants. I know what you are thinking, but our guy rejects the offer instantly, saying he has zero interest in playing knight. He already has his sights set on something way bigger and refuses to settle for less than his true ambition. His bold words literally leave everyone at the table completely stunned. One guy suggests he should seriously stop chasing the foolish dream of becoming the Lord of Line. Just because he clapped the young master does not mean he should get super arrogant. The girl chimes in, completely drunk as always. She corrects the dude, straight up claiming that whatever insane move Colin used just had to be magic. Pointing right at him, she figures he must have used some crazy kind of magic to take down the Blue King too. Our boy stays quiet, just letting it play out, while the other guy wonders how the heck a former slave could ever get his hands on real magic. The nosy old man jumps in, pressuring our guy to drop an explanation. Colin always knew they would uncover his secrets. Now they are staring him down, and trust me, we must see what happens next. Let's jump into this. Our guy is just glad he already cooked up an alibi like some kind of neighborhood master of deception. All eyes are totally locked onto him. The woman is about to accuse him while Colin sweats bullets over her reaction and the epic fallout. The girl's best guess is that this dude is some kind of former noble, just scaring him for absolutely zero reason. Homeboy is still baffled as she walks up, totally hyping herself up over her crazy skill at exposing his secret identity. She is totally hammered. She thinks he is an enslaved, illegitimate son wanting his mansion back. It is such a massive stretch that his buddy is absolutely mind-blown by her crazy logic. Our boy just laughs it off. All he has to do is simply play along with her crazy idea, which he totally does to build up a fake backstory. Everyone in the room actually buys his story. Meanwhile, Colin even starts crying about it, claiming he is just an ex-noble who lost his way and ended up trapped in slavery. His passionate speech packs so much emotion that the haters suddenly start feeling super bad for him, as he swears to take back his stolen life. Even though the rest got totally played, His buddy right here thinks there is no way such a basic lie could actually fool Captain Glenn too. Watch closely here, because his expectations get totally crushed next. The old man actually believes the whole story and agrees to keep it a secret. Colin is super chill with the captain, who simply wants him to keep his powers completely hidden from the lady or the young master. Besides that, he also drops the news that the Marquis actually wants to meet Colin. So the scene wraps up with our main guy heading out to see him. Glenn watches from a distance, thinking about the supposedly deported Owl City Colin mentioned. On the way, his buddy is still totally shocked how well that fake story worked. But honestly, he is even more confused about why Colin chose Owl City out of all places. Our guy replies by pointing out that the city is a massive melting pot, way out in the boondocks, and super hard to investigate anyway. This whole fake former noble gig is actually just a sneaky way to manipulate people later on. Putting all that aside, the buddy also wants to ask about something else while throwing up a weird hook hand sign. He wants to know if Colin actually knows about some three-legged crow thing, or if that was just another random technique he made up on the spot to confuse people. See, back then when he saved Daku's life, Colin literally sliced the fat monster's head right off with a single epic swing. He flexed that he had to go deliver that message to his sister himself. Right after saying that, he kept absolutely wiping out the other monsters. I know you did not see this coming. Right before his sword could hit the boss, some heavy vaporizing magic stopped the blade completely. Colin just stood there frozen in shock, while the big ugly monster totally mocked him for trying. Then it was Daku himself who crashed the party, finding the absolute perfect opening to dash forward and catch the monster completely off guard before it countered. Ultimately, both of them managed to slaughter the beast with a crazy double attack, chopping it up like they were serving fresh sushi platters. Daku also had serious beef with our boy right after, calling him a piece of trash for treating his willpower like some huge joke. Anyway, moving on. They could not bicker for long because these two dudes instantly got rushed by more of those fat, ugly orc demons, or whatever they actually are. Daku knocked one down, yelling at Colin for pulling a stupid stunt that could have killed the hostage he was trying to save. Our guy told him that cutting the hostage would not help anyway, since the monsters were definitely not going to just let him walk away. Daku then complained about why Colin could not just shoot him a signal before doing his big flashy act. But our boy totally roasted him for thinking that leaking his master strategy was a good idea. Their goofy banter kept going. Both dudes were yelling at each other while everyone watched. By the end, the only two guys practically at war were the ones supposed to be on the same team. Daku then flashed his special three-legged crow hand sign, which he probably thinks looks super cool or something like that. Apparently, he learned this trick from some guy named Rowan. This gesture supposedly means perfect teamwork between two allies. Our boy actually struggled to copy the hand sign, but he also roasted Daku for trying to get caught again like a total dummy. Right then, Colin reveals he actually already knew the signal, all thanks to an old friend he lost, a dude he called his absolute best bro. So what do you and I make of this? Daku is super shocked, wondering if a guy like that actually existed in the company. Stick with me, you and I are diving into something epic. A knock hits and our boys finally step before the Marchioness. The boss is in a great mood, asking Colin how he feels. Our guy happily replies, saying he is totally chilling and completely relaxed now. The Marchioness also greets Daku, who shows absolute, top-tier respect to his boss. Then comes the real juicy topic. The Marchioness definitely called them here for a specific reason, and it turns out to be about that whole crazy incident on the estate grounds. Yep, that exact same incident they were fighting over the other day. Honestly, using those grounds without permission was a terrible idea. The Martianist personally walks right up to them, sharing that she and Glenn go way back. Together, they have literally faced down death multiple times, barely surviving to make it this far. That is why, even as the boss, she is terrified of losing them. She massively respects these two guys for saving their friends. Daku chimes in with heavy guilt, saying he totally failed because he could not save more of his comrades in the end. But wait. The Martianess completely clears their guilt. She tells them it was not their responsibility at all, admitting it was actually her own mistake for not seeing the monster attack coming sooner. Colin and his buddy just exchange a super confused look. Meanwhile, the Martianess adds they probably already heard about the Royal Knight situation from Captain Glenn himself, since they are standing right in front of him. Watch closely, here is where it gets interesting. She wants Colin to give his final answer, and exactly as expected, my guy confidently rejects the offer, so she pivots to Daku. The Martianess hits him with the exact same question. The kid is absolutely shocked getting a personal royal guard invite. Sweating and terrified, the kid stammers that he is way too green for a basic guard spot, let alone a massive role like the royal guard. Stepping up, Colin backs his boy up, telling him to just speak straight from the heart. Locking in, the kid gathers his guts and passionately screams his dream of becoming a royal guard. That choice is loud and clear. But the Martianess is also totally down to offer Colin any reward he wants. Handed that blank check, he gets dead serious. He demands the freedom of Erica, the sister of Daku, who is currently stuck serving the Williams family. This wildcard reward choice absolutely stuns Daku himself. He never saw this crazy twist coming at all. Colin stands 10 toes down on his request. He argues the siblings stuck together right until they hit the Hall family. And sadly, her body was judged as way too weak, even though Daku only ever wanted her right by his side. The Martianess double-checks if that is really his final wish. Colin casually admits he has a total brotherly bond with this guy, straight up calling him his best friend. So he refuses to ditch him when he is clearly struggling. The kid's face goes completely blank. He never expected such high praise, while our boy just keeps insisting that Daku should be reunited with his sister. That deep connection, the pure brotherhood between comrades, instantly reminds the Martianess of her own old allies. Unfortunately, since this mess involves the powerful Williams family, it will not be quick or easy. Right away, the Martianess tells Daku to step out of the room for a second. The kid gets ready to bounce, but pauses, deep in thought again about what kind of guy Colin really is. Alone with the boss, you and I know things are getting absolutely crazy. The Martianess brings up a whole new topic, reminding him of the day he completely challenged Thrace to a brawl. Back then, the Martianess quickly figured out he was no regular slave. She was blown away that Colin tanked a straight-up magic attack and won the fight without taking a single scratch. But the wildest part to her was how he flawlessly flexed a power he had already busted out multiple times before. Plus, the Martianess totally knows about the fake cover story he fed Captain Glenn, calling out his whole plan to win back his noble status. Funny enough, Colin mutters the Martianess name before flashing a tiny spark of his magic powers, swearing to the guy that he really is not some super important big shot. Instead, he claims he is literally just a regular dude who happens to click with magic. Now, being the Martianess, a massive Archmage Grandmaster would normally just look at him like some cocky, worthless bug. But right now, that exact same Archmage Grandmaster is completely baffled at how a totally normal guy can perfectly manipulate magic like a pro. Once again, This really makes her question what kind of insane monster this guy actually is hiding inside. Colin hypes it up, hyping that the man in front of him loves his people above literally everything else, making him the absolute greatest marquis of all time. That exact same man respects raw power way more than fancy bloodlines. Colin is hyped to get his respect. His goal is working for the Marquis to wreck the whole bloodline supremacy concept. Trust me, you and I will want to see what happens next. Stick with me. Our boy wants to dominate and become a powerful lord just like him. With the bold, crazy ambition to actually surpass him someday. Colin admits the Marquis saved his life twice, so he wants to prove his real strength in the selection exam. After that, the ruler himself gets to decide how to weaponize him for his own goals. The whole idea is pretty amusing, but it actually makes the Marquis just burst out laughing uncontrollably. The dude is super impressed. He actually expects big things from Colin as he confirms his departure. Before he leaves, he asks one last thing. What does the kid think about Rowan? Colin plays dumb, acting like he doesn't know the name at all. So the Marquis just tells him to leave without explaining anything else. Watching him walk away, Darius Hall wonders in total confusion why he even thought of that. He calls his butler Cornell, who was chilling in the shadows cultivating aura. The butler is pretty curious himself. Is this kid a total nobody or a genius? Based on how he read Colin, it really seems like the kid knows nothing about Rowan. Which also means the kid isn't from Ale City like he claimed. It's a straight-up lie. So the butler doesn't trust him at all. He thinks it's some kind of trap, especially since they've dealt with this exact kind of incident before. And yeah, apparently the Marquis's own wife actually betrayed him back in the day. Pushing that aside, the butler hands over a note, saying they finally got some info from the spirit cat. Darius is totally intrigued, wondering what kind of juicy intel they managed to dig up. Now pay attention because here's where things get wild. Our boy is back home checking out his shiny new loot, materials, coins, and potions. It's all thanks to Colin trading his war loot for efficient supplies. With the stuff he grabbed this time, his power is about to absolutely skyrocket. At the same time, the name Rowan is seriously bugging him, making him wonder who that guy really is. The only time he ever heard it was when Daku mentioned it in his past life, but other than that, total mystery. Then again, the way the Marquis said it made it seem like Colin was supposed to know the guy. Anyway, he tosses the little bead into his tube, hoping to ask Daku later. After that, he mixes everything into a potion and chugs it straight down. After downing the liquid, Colin immediately chants a spell to crack open the magic book. The special artifact scatters tons of pages right in front of him. He keeps chugging more flasks, tossing another one onto the pile, experiencing a brand new change. Colin focuses his energy and recites Absorb, immediately making his muscles tense up from the insane pressure. The system confirms the mana absorption, boosting his mana capacity by 1 point. Man, this system is literally the exact opposite of solo leveling right now. Colin figures that mixing some fire monster cores with Yade Sovereign Grass can actually bump up his mana capacity. At least, that's the info he managed to find in the book. But even a potion like this maxes out at giving him 3 points, while some don't even offer a single one. Anyway, Colin is terrified of losing control after running out of mana again. So his plan is to upgrade magic resistance first. Meanwhile, he can't deny how absolutely disgusting this stuff tastes. He already wants to puke, and drinking them one by one is going to take way too long. The dude's terrified he's gonna die of diarrhea before leveling up, making him wonder if there's an easier way to handle all this. We both saw this coming, right? Checking his mana, a system notification suddenly detects a powerful monster core. Basically, this core can become a magic artifact to help him out. It's an awesome idea, so he grabs the blue core to investigate. To test this method, he taps the system screen to tweak the settings. By meditating, he manages to summon the monster's avatar in a golden aura. Just like the magic book instructed, he channels his raw power straight into the mana core. Forming an image of the artifact in his mind, he wonders what to create. He decides fast, squeezing the crystal ball in his hand before materializing the magic artifact using that blue core. The crafting process is absolutely wild, and it finally wraps up when the golden sparkles fade away. The system confirms the successful crafting of the artifact, a bracelet around his left arm. Behold, the Azure Bracelet, granting the user the special effect of wild intuition. There's also a sweet blessing that helps boost his mana capacity by 1 extra point just for wearing it. Still, to test out its effects, our boy chugs another bottle just to amplify his capacity by 2 points instead. So what do you and I take from this? Even basic 1-point potions now double in power, all thanks to one epic bracelet. It is a totally sick item, but what really gets him hyped up is this main skill called Wild Intuition. Right then, his senses just spike. He picks up on something creeping behind the door. He senses 2 people, both maids, but the dude gets so spooked he literally screams out loud in pure confusion. Now watch this part. It is like he suddenly unlocked X-ray vision, or even better, straight-up life force vision. Same thing happens when he checks the guards. He is seeing the whole world in this crazy neon color gradient. Then he scopes out the Marquis and Katrina, those glowing flames around them. That is their raw mana. But putting that aside, he hears a faint voice echoing that it is starving. Trust me, we are not ready.